Welcome to Therapy Facts with Dr. Jenn. Today we are talking about the therapy facts from the Monique Shannon Sharp interview at Club Shay Shay. We are talking about point number 2, which is knowing your worth. Listen, I said in the last point that Monique is an example of knowing your worth in spades. She is a live out loud, live in public example of many therapy facts. But knowing your worth is one of her hallmarks. So she talked about how she walked away from many offers because she was expected to settle for less than what she knew she was worth. And that point of self-knowledge is often a source for the therapy couch. We often see people who have settled for way less than what they wanted and even have accepted opulent things or valuable circumstances that they really didn't want. So knowing your worth is not necessarily about numbers or dollars. It's knowing where you want to be, knowing the situation and the circumstance where you find your highest value or your highest satisfaction, and then not settling for anything different, even if there is high value. So, one of the ways that we help people to learn to know their worth is to just think about, well, what have you done? What have you done? What dues have you paid? What credentials do you have? And then what are those circumstances or experiences worth in the marketplace? And the marketplace can be at home, it can be at work, it can be in community organizations, it can be at church. And so sometimes people will overestimate the value of their worth in the marketplace. And even if you do that, the marketplace will help to let you know that no, your worth is not what you think it is. However, many people lowball themselves from the very beginning. And especially when we're talking about women in particular, very often women are expected to work for, and when I say work, I mean in all circumstances, for free and at their own expense. And so that's less than free. And so very often when women come to therapy and they're overwhelmed for being the mules of their life, they don't even know where to start to begin to understand their worth because they have been taken advantage of, they have been overworked, they have been undervalued, they have had their complaints and their concerns ignored. And so one of the first things to do is to really think about what is important for you as a person trying to figure out your worth. What have you done to prepare for the place that's important for you? So very often I see people who are working in spaces, either professionally or in community organizations or even in relationships that do not build upon them and build upon their personhood in any way. And so when that happens and that person is trying to figure out what their worth is, they're not even in a position to assess their worth because they are outside of the spectrum of their own self-value. And so when we value ourselves and when we move ourselves into places that match the value that we have for ourselves or the value that we are trying to develop for ourselves, then we begin to know our worth. And then when we are settled on that for ourselves, then we don't get upset about other people not knowing our worth or not valuing us because we just pick up our bags and we move into spaces where we are valued. we are responsible for doing that for ourselves. And so when a client comes to see me in therapy and they're so exhausted and so worn out from being taken advantage of, the finger points to them. The finger points to them and the question gets asked to them. What is your worth? Where do you find happiness? Where do you find contentment? Where do you find succor? Where do you find nurture? And are you in those spaces? Because we cannot expect people to, number one, treat us better than we treat ourselves. Number two, to fill voids and gaps in our understanding of our own value and our own worth when we don't understand it. So it's the work that has to be done is within the person. Again, Monique is a shining example of someone who has done the work. And regardless of what we think about or what someone else may think about Monique's worth, she is clear about her worth. She is clear about what she will exchange for her self-worth. And she is clear about spaces that she will not go into because of low value. Again, Monique is a great role model for knowing your worth.